Hello, welcome to 7 Series Football. My name is Justin, and today we'll be talking about the benefits of No Huddle in conjunction with an optimized playbook. I chose to go with this topic because I think it'll serve as a good introduction to the channel and give a little bit of a preview into how I view the EA football games as a whole, as that's connected to the whole entire purpose of this channel. So really briefly. Um, I feel like there's obviously a lot of content out there about these games, whether that be YouTube, social media, whatever. But they typically fall into one of two buckets. It's either how to run X scheme, whether that be meta, whether that be simulating real football. It's how to run X, or it's completely into the team building spectrum where it's how to recruit the best players or how to trade for the best players in Madden or how to do whatever in Ultimate Team. And I think there's a big void in between there. And that's really the gap that I want to fill with this channel, essentially. I want to do that because I think it's the most fun and most rewarding way to play the games, to have that overall management role when it comes to your team, care recruiting or team building, putting together your scheme, putting together your playbook. Having all of that fall under your purview is, I think, the most rewarding way to play the game. So that's my viewpoint. That's kind of the perspective that we'll be approaching the channel from. But without further ado, let's go ahead and get into today's topic. We'll be talking about No Huddle, specifically the benefits of running it with an optimized playbook. And to do that, I have a drive prepared from a recent Dynasty game that I played. But the main things that I want you to pay attention to, the main benefits, I guess, are going to be firstly limiting the amount of calls that the defense has at their disposal. That's first and foremost. Once you hop into No Huddle, you shrink their plays down dramatically. Secondly, you create a lot of mental pressure for your opponent once you start playing in No Huddle, and ideally, that pressure will lead to mistakes. Both of those situations, limiting their calls and forcing mistakes, puts you at a major advantage offensively. So that's what we'll be getting into. I want you to keep an eye out for that as we get into the drive, and I'll do my best to point these things out when they present themselves. Let's pull up this clip here. Just a little bit about the game situation to this point. On our first drive, we were able to score pretty quickly. I want to say we got like a huge chunk play on like a slot fade, and then we were able to score once we got into the red zone. Obviously, we were able to get a stop as well. So we're working with the lead here. This is our second drive, and being that we scored quickly the last time, I'm thinking that we should come out and establish the run at least a little bit. So hop into 12 personnel here just to get a bit more physicality on the field. I called this play into the boundary on accident, so I tried to flip it here, but they wouldn't let me flip the run. They just let me flip the formation. We got all type of numbers and grass over here, but sometimes you just got to eat it. So we're going to take this run, unfortunately, away from our numbers. I'm going to take a loss, but let's see another down. And being that put us behind the chains, we're hopping right into empty. We're off schedule now. We got to get yards back. Let's try to quickly recover. So I said we're hopping into empty. We got us a split field read here. We've got this arches coming from the boundary and then this seam comeback combo to the field. We'll talk about play design on this channel, play theory, but just for this example, this is what we're rocking with. Once we snap here, we'll see what the defense does. We'll see what we're getting. Looks like cover 2. We can see that pole runner getting depth here. We can see that seam converting into the bender to split the safeties. So with this void here in the middle, we'll take our slant all day long. So yeah, now we've erased that play. we've erased that negative play, and this is where the drive is really going to get going. Firstly, we're back in 11 personnel. We're not in 12 anymore. So we got the class, I don't want to say classic, but the typical three wide receivers, one running back, one tight end that the majority of college football and frankly the NFL is played out of right now. Um, but now that we're back in 11, let's get into tempo. This is what we're here for. This is what we're here to talk about. Let's get after it. Um, so first and foremost, we've limited the calls for the defense. You know what I'm saying? They were in cover two before. This looks like some sort of cover two distribution. We will see the corners are a bit backed off, but at least we know from the last play that they were in cover two, right? That's their base. As long as we're in no huddle, cover two is their base. When you hop in no huddle, the defense has four calls that they can make. I think the playbook maximum in these games is 500, and we're shrinking the amount of calls that the defense can make down to four. And even further, the four stock audibles that most formations get are like cover three, in Tampa two, some sort of man blitz, and then like cover two man or something like that, maybe like a four drop. But regardless, all the stock audibles are like really vanilla, easy to identify coverages that make it really easy for us to attack them. So unless your opponent has their audible set up, just off the rip, we're at a major advantage. You know what I'm saying? Especially if you have your audible set up on your end because you've got options and they don't. Okay. So that's the first benefit. Once we start going tempo, we shrink their options. Secondly, when we play fast, we create a sort of mental pressure for our opponents. And that's going to apply both on a per drive and on a per game level. So within the context of the drive, after the third or fourth completion, after your second or third first down, odds are your opponent's going to start trying stuff. They're going to want to stop you. They're not just trying to see you complete the ball, complete passes, and play catch down the field. So they're going to probably try to use or somebody different. They might call a different play. They're probably going to use or somebody they have no business using. They might blitz somebody who's supposed to be in coverage. They're going to do something to try to change up the look. Again, given that they only have so many calls at their disposal. But if you just think about it, again, we're in complete control of the situation at this point. We are dictating the terms of the offensive and defensive interaction here. So that's a good place to be. And if you've got your audible set, not only can you live in this type of environment, but you can thrive in this type of environment. We got a lot of advantages working for us on offense right now. And that's just on a drive to drive basis. Within the context of an entire game, if you're scoring lightning fast and not only that, making it look easy, and your opponent is struggling to move the ball, they got to work. It's almost human nature for them to start to press. That you naturally want to keep up with your opponent. And if you can't do that, it's hard to not get self-conscious and get out of body. So if you can force your opponent to get out of body, that's just another advantage. That's another card that's being played in your favor. And at that point, you can end games really quickly. You know what I'm saying? If you come out and score on 3 drives, if you get a stop or two, you could be looking up 21-10 in the second quarter, and that's just a really advantageous place to be. You can sit on the ball and drain clock. If you want to run up the score, you could do that. But yeah, that's a really good situation to be in. Now, I will say, I'll give you a caveat here. If you're going to run no huddle proficiently, it'd be really beneficial for you to get good at identifying coverages pre-snap. If you can identify coverage shells, getting into your different audibles is going to be so much easier. Xando Football has a great numbering system that's really helped me take my game to the next level with my pre-snap reading. It's very simple, so I'll make sure to link that video and really his entire channel in the description. Huge shout out to him. I wouldn't be half the player that I am today without him. So definitely want to encourage you guys to go show him some love. Um, but those are all the things that I wanted to talk through before we really get into the drive. So let me stop yapping and go ahead and start this here. Okay, so we're hopping in this bunch open offset RPO here. And we're really just trying to keep the drive moving. We got a first down. Let's keep it going. This formation is going to force this defender to really declare what he's doing. We got this wide bunch that's, pretty far from the offensive line. And that's putting this guy in conflict. So, we're just going to read what he's going to do here. And just like clockwork, our defender is doing stupid stuff already. He's in no huddle. He can't call another play. He thinks he knows what's coming. And so he declares way before the snap what he's going to do, which makes our read that much easier. We got numbers in the box. We'll hand that off, break a tackle. We'll take 9.5 yards for carry all day long. And we're not done here, We got more soft zone there. Looks like we're going to keep getting soft zone and not going to change it up. So we're going to work this drive concept. We technically got, a free play here on 2nd and inches, but still early in the drive. No need to force anything. No need to press. Circle wins on a fade, awesome, cool. But we'll work this drive into, this kind of weak flood and see what we can pick up here. Just looking at the coverage here, this kind of looks like maybe some sort of cut quarters or like a 3 match. I'm just looking at this backside safety latch onto that dig. Regardless of what they're in, we just flip the field. You know what I'm saying? So we're gonna keep this rolling here. We know they're not in man-to-man at least. But we're gonna keep it rolling. Now I'm thinking we didn't got a couple first downs. We can afford to take a shot here, So just a little bit about the team. 82, this is our speedster. He's got takeoff, so I'm gonna audible him on a streak. See maybe if we can win, maybe if we can beat this safety here, or at least occupy him. Then from there, we're gonna throw circle on a crosser. I'm thinking maybe he can across the face of that safety, especially with that clear out coming from the point man. And then if we don't get anything out of there, we've got either of these zigs here. So, and this is our best receiver, so I got a lot of confidence in him. Snap this here. It's gonna fry the user. We got another first down for Mr. Mateo Bautista there. And, I'm feeling good. We're still working. Let's keep throwing the ball. We're going to stick with this bunch formation here, but this time we're going to call mesh dig. This is essentially mesh underneath with the other 2 people in the bunch kind of running like a dagger concept here. Let's see what we get. Okay, so it looks like they're back in cover 2, specifically signified by the pole runner. As we can see him bailing out of there and denying that crosser, and then his user sitting in the window of that dig. So we're going to take this drag here as it clears these underneath zones. We'll fight for a few more yards. We'll get 9, and at this point, I don't think we could be in a more advantageous situation. We've gotten into the deep red zone, or we've gotten into the red zone really within the 10-yard line. But not only that, it's 2nd and 1. So given that we can get 1 yard, we've got 6 plays to play with, as opposed to, normally 3 or 4. So no reason to rush, no reason to be overly aggressive here. We're going to check into this duo run with this bubble tag to it. And we got cover 2 the last play. and we didn't get an audible from the defense. We didn't get an audible. He did press his defense, which, is something to take note of, especially considering that these two players have run fits. So I'm thinking here, hey, we've got leverage to the flat, if he doesn't play the bubble super aggressively. But if he does play the bubble, then, we've got numbers here. We should easily be able to pick up this first down. But let's pay attention to what happens here. We can see, again, the pressure is getting to our opponent. We've been sitting in this no huddle. We've been moving the ball. He can't get out of his defense, so he's going to try something to change it up here. He's already tried to press, but he's like, why not move this deep half safety into the box as well? Let's make sure that he can't run this ball. Wasn't necessarily a good idea because now we had numbers in the first place. We kind of like the situation with this apex getting out leveraged, but now we've got essentially a 2-on-1 over here. You know what I'm saying? We've got all the numbers in the world. So let's go ahead and snap it. Our ID was right. That user had no chance of getting out here with the bubble. You can see he's getting washed out here, and we're able to walk into the end zone essentially untouched. Not only that, Trey's having a fantastic game at this point, 7 for 7. This particular drive, we just went 5 of 5. We drove 85 yards and essentially handed our opponent the ball back after a minute and 50 seconds and dared them to keep up with our offense. So definitely a successful drive, and we were able to achieve this success because we were able to keep the defense on their back foot. We completely dictated the terms. We forced the defense into a few identifiable coverages, as we saw from the cover 2 spam over the course of this drive. And then from there, we were able to create enough mental pressure to force our opponent into making mistakes with their user. So those are the things that I wanted to point out for you guys today. That's what I wanted to show you in this video. That said, I'm not just going to leave you here and say, run no huddle. I will let you know this is going to require some familiarity with a playbook. I encourage you to get familiar with one. That's going to allow you to set audibles. I think you can add any of the stock playbooks in the game, and you can set up to 4 audibles to each formation on offense. That should give you a whole wealth of plays to be able to choose from once you do go no huddle. So I encourage you to do that. But even further, I encourage you to create your own playbook. Getting familiar with one of the stock ones is amazing, but there's a certain type of fulfillment that comes from creating your own playbook. I think there's a deeper layer of enjoyment that comes from it. Not only are you running things that you're comfortable with and, hopefully that you find fun, but also you're, expressing the way that you feel about the game of football and the way that you see the game of football. And not just expressing or talking about it, but, this is your playbook that you use. You are interacting with your football philosophy. So that's just my 2 cents. I strongly encourage any and everyone who plays these games to go ahead and, invest the time in creating their own playbook. It is an investment, but we can talk about that. Going forward on the channel, we can make videos about how to build playbooks. We can talk about my playbook, what I have going on. We can talk about systems for setting up audibles and how to optimize that. Without question, I'll be making a video with a more formal channel introduction where I'll talk about some of my offensive and defensive philosophy and how I like to play the game, how I believe football should be played, at least within the context of these games. But honestly, anything else that you guys want to talk about as well. I've been a part of the, YouTube EA football community for a few years. I got a lot of love for, like I said, Xando Football and Deuce Close and, Zan Madden. So Huge shout outs to those guys. A lot of this comes from them, as well as, any Steve Sarkisian and and Nick Saban clinics I've been able to find on YouTube and the internet. So yeah, that's what we'll be getting into. I look forward to interacting with you guys. Please, drop comments, give me feedback, give me ideas for what you want to talk about, what we want to learn, what we want to get into, what we want to discuss. Y'all would make my day with any sort of comment or or interaction. So I'd appreciate that. I never thought I'd say this, but like, comment, subscribe. Hopefully, it can help out the channel. But other than that, I appreciate you guys' time, and I look forward to seeing you in the next one. Thank you. I'll see you guys. Peace.